Hey, my friends, in today's video here, what I want to do is in this blog post as well, you'll see information about how to choose a domain name. Choosing the perfect domain name can be a little thought provoking. It's not always the easiest thing to do, and you really need to take some time to choose a good domain name so that you're happy with it. Just to give you an example, years ago, when I was in a very niche specific um, internet marketing area, I created my first blog, and it had a domain name I wish I would have never used because I couldn't pivot from it even to other forms of internet marketing. I still have that blog today. It still gets a ton of traffic. So I never take it down. I do post content to it, but the content on that blog isn't the best. So it doesn't get as much traffic as it could because I cannot really pivot from it. Now, that's okay when you know how to build your own websites, but if you're struggling to build your very first one, or you haven't gotten your first one off the ground yet, and you're still on the part of trying to find the best domain name for it, what you want to do is there'll be a link below this video. You can just click on to go to known host, and you can start doing some searching and playing around with different variations to see what's available. So when you land on known host, all you need to do is go to services right here in this tab, and then in the drop down menu go to domain registration. So we're just going to type in here to see what's available to show you how to search and even find what you're looking for, if it's available or not, because that is the biggest question. Nowadays, it gets harder and harder to find a domain name that you want because they're not as easy to get the one that you want, because more and more people are coming online realizing that the internet can be a very lucrative place to make a living. And especially with the things happening in the world now, people are coming online in droves looking for opportunity. So it's best that our highest recommendation, of course, is always if you can buy your own domain, your own name as your domain name. So if I type in here my name, and you got to put the .com, you cannot put any spaces or hyphens or anything like that. They'll show you other versions of it. But what you do to search and check is you go, just type in your name, .com, because preferably you always want a .com. And if you absolutely have to have your name because you have no other ideas in mind, then .net or .org if it's available. But I wouldn't go much beyond that because those are the most recognized and most easily identified by like the search engines. So .com is the biggest one. It's going to give you the most clout for your domain name. But I'm going to show you by searching here. I'm going to search. You just click right here then or hit enter. And you can see, sorry, that domain is not available. Well, because of course I already own richardweber.com. So now it tells me. Now you could check other extensions like .net or .org by going here and clicking .org, here, or .net right here, and then it would tell you. And now what we want to do is just type in .net here, hit enter, and you can see that .net is available. Okay, so you could buy that version if you truly want your name, which we recommend the highest. Um, but we'd rather see you get a .com, so there are many other options for you out there. Like, I'm just going to search it here now. A different variation, like you could add a nickname to it. You could add your like initials, like I could put RJ Weberg, rjweberg.com, and let's see if that's available. Hit enter. And rjweberg.com is available. rjweberg.net is available. See, you can just select, I can select .org down here too. Where's that at again? I forgot to select that one. So when I'm searching, I could hit enter again, and it's going to tell me by hitting enter if that's available in those three. And it is now. rjweberg.com is available, rjweberg.net, rjweberg.org. So here I found some variations. I could actually use my middle name too. I could go James Weberg, and I'm referring to this for you, for your name, because a lot of times certain names are not available. People have already bought them because it's a super popular name. Like below this video, if you're watching this video on my eMoney Peeps blog, you will see that I give you many, many examples, and there's an example of a name below that in the United States alone, there are like 28,000 people in the US that have that name. So you're never going to get that as a dot anything probably. So you got to try other versions of your name like jamesweberg.com. So now I'll hit enter here. And that's available. See, and you can keep playing around like that, and it'll keep putting all the available ones down below. And that's what I like about using known host search for doing this, how I showed you how to get here, and being able to keep doing this, because you can come up with a long list of domain names that are all available, and you can look at them all then and go, you know what, I really want that. That is what I want. And then you just unselect the ones you don't want, and then order the selected domain name and get your hosting for it. And I suggest doing that right away, because if you don't, a half hour from now, tomorrow, that domain name might be gone. So you want to buy it right away and get your hosting for it so that you own it, so that nobody else can buy it. But that's why I love this type of search with known host, because it just keeps putting them down here so you can see them all. Now, here's another great type of domain name. I'm going to give you the example, and it is in the blog post below. You can read for a lot more examples. But the fireman's wife. Now, if I was a gal, this is a type of domain name, thefireman'swife.com, that's easily rememberable, easy to type in, but it can encompass anything. So you can pivot from it if your interests change very easily. You can write about anything. And I'm just using that as an example because it's a really catchy domain name, thefireman'swife.com. Now, is it available? We'll give it a check. We'll hit enter. And I would bet it's not. And it's not available. And then I kind of had that feeling. And now it's switched my thing here because it wasn't a variation of my name. And that's the only part that can get sketchy, but you can write them down on a piece of paper so that when you try a totally different one, you have all the versions that are available that you're looking at, because most of them won't save any more than what's directly related to the one that you're searching for. And they'll keep putting those variations in if they're really close, and they'll show up below. But that is why I like this, because it gives you listed availability and you can write the ones down. So the fireman'swife.net is available. And I knew these would probably be taken because it's a great pivot domain name, meaning if your interests change, you can always write about something else. And I give an example below in this blog post of, let's say jumpingbabytoys.com was your domain name. And eventually you didn't like to write about or add content to your Jumping Baby Toys website, and you're finding that it's not very lucrative. You're not making as many sales because the interest in that domain name and those things is just not that great. But you can never pivot from it. You can't write about other topics really with jumpingbabytoys.com, that niche specific. So you can add other variations to your name, like your professional designation if you have one. Like I could be Let's see here. If I type in my name, Richard Weber Photography. If I was huge into photography.com. Now, again, you don't want to get your name too long, but that's okay. You just don't want a really long domain name, so you don't want to go much more than 3 words, and especially if your name is longer. Now, if you got a really short name like Brian Adams, you can get away with a lot more longer word onto your name. But richardwebergphotography.com. I mean, that would be rememberable. And I could kind of pivot from that domain name because I could take photos about stuff, post to my content. I could have that relate to many different things and monetize my website or blog for whatever type of photos I took and tie it into what I photographed. Like if I took photos of nature and I had a bunch of pictures up, I could sell ads for frames or nature photos for that particular blog post in ways to monetize it. So you got to think outside the box a little bit, and I don't want to get you too confused here. But the best domains, the perfect domains you really can go after are ones that are your name is your domain name because you are branding you with your web presence online. Remember that you always want to brand you because you can pivot in any niche direction that you want with interest on your website. .com is the best. So try to get .com, otherwise .net or .org if you really want your domain name. And I guess I would buy .net or .org for my domain name first because if .com wasn't available, I do really want my name as a domain name. I had somebody search the other day and their name is so popular they couldn't find barely an extension that would have their name. And so some of the other ones are so obscure, they're not even worth choosing. Maybe one to consider would be .me. .me is kind of cool, like richardweber.me. That one's, it's just not going to have as much clout with the search engines. It doesn't mean that it won't have clout. It's just not as good as a .com. But I would want my name, period, as a domain name. So it's just so easy to pivot from it. And then stuff like the fireman's wife. I mean, there's many other names you could come up with like that that are very rememberable and can encompass you. You know, I just chose that as an example that came out of my head. But you can see how the fireman's wife could write about whatever, could write about daily life. You could monetize it with all kinds of different things you write about because it would be, again, pivoting from a personal type domain name. So those are the best domain names. And you just, like I said, go to Known Host, the link below the video. Go to, once you're on the home page, go to services here and just go to domain registration and you can start playing around. And when you find one that you like, order it right away because it might be gone, like I said, a half hour from now. And I seen a domain name I typed in be gone like 20 minutes later before. And so choosing that domain name, take your time, get it what you really are happy with and that you can pivot from, and then buy it right away so that it is not gone. And any domain name usually you can buy for about $15 a year, and then you got your hosting, whatever you're choosing for a monthly hosting package, where in our course we teach to get a certain WordPress hosting when teaching people how to build sites. But if you're already building your own site yourself or you're hiring somebody else to do it and you're looking for that domain name, get it right away, get your hosting right away. But hosting can run anywhere from $5 to $10, $20 a month, just depending on your package, and or more if you're going with a dedicated server or managed WordPress hosting, what we always suggest so that you can build a full website and blog. You're looking at about $19 a month, and it's automatically going to have set up for WordPress. Very easy to do. But just take your time, again, so that the domain name you're choosing is something that you're super happy with and you can pivot from. And just read the rest of this blog post underneath the video because it'll give you more ideas and more ways you can look at your domain name. Other than that, my friends, we will see you on another video. Have a great day.